All right, welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined as always by football analyst William Gardner. And William, we have a full week of transfer portal madness to recap. I want to go through and do a lot of film study with you, but I feel like we got to wait till the madness dies down a little bit. We've got so many guys to talk about.
Yeah, I think we might have to have a shows about individual guys or whatever. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot still to come. So a lot to cover. Kind of not so much in depth. I think we'll have a lot of fun today, but maybe not so much in depth with individual guys. Just a little bit of coverage for each one.
Exactly. 22 commitments at this point, and we're live right now. But the way these commitments have been rolling in, if you're listening to this a day from now, that number is going to probably be different, right? Yeah. It's pretty crazy, the amount of activity, but this is exactly what they needed. I think maybe some people, William, were just skeptical if they could pull it off.
Yeah, and I think, I don't think we've pulled it off yet. I think there's a lot to go. There's not enough. We don't have enough guys yet on this team to have depth and practice for spring or whatever. So we still need to see some things happen in this. But I think we've picked up the initial pieces at almost every position that we need. I think defensive tackle is still critical, but I don't know. We just go through them, and I think we'll talk about it all. But I think there's a lot left to come, and I think there's a lot more coming. And some of the stories here are fantastic.
And yeah, I know they are. We're gonna do our top 5 transfer commits so far. Do you have your list ready?
Yeah, we're gonna do that first.
Not right now. I just wanted to know if you were prepared for that, because I think that's gonna be fun to do. I'll say this: I was able to pick out 6 or 7 guys pretty quick, but like there's not a whole lot separating. I think the competition is going to be pretty intense.
And I think
once all these guys get on campus.
And they all, and we'll, as we go through them, we'll talk about some of the similar things that there's clearly some things that they're looking for here in these guys, and I think we'll get to that when we start talking about them. But of course, the kicker is my number one, right? I mean, we know this, right? Hey, dude, Josh McCormick, come to see you and be hated universally.
Yeah, the folks on our message board on BuffStampede.com, they get a kick out of some of the specialist threads that take place there.
Yeah, that's one way to put
it. All right, well, let me share my screen here, and then we're going to get into.
You want to just go through in order? You got them in the.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So I recently did.
Hey, are we getting that guy? Because I want him back.
Shador? Doesn't sound like it. I think he's maybe going to match up with Mike McDaniel there in Cleveland. That'd be a fun marriage there. All right, incoming transfers. Again, there's 22 of them. It's kind of starting from the top on offense with Isaac Wilson. I still think you need another serviceable arm to bring into the program, because you do have Dominic Ponder, who's better than your average walk-on, but you need probably 3 scholarship quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, I think it, and then probably and then you got the walk-on too. You need 4, I think, just to get through spring ball, much less to make it through a season. To be able to do everything you want to do.
But Isaac Wilson seems like a solid backup. This is somebody that was kind of thrust into action as a true freshman at Utah. And, it was kind of an up and down type freshman season for him. And then last year he was behind some talented quarterbacks. So I see him probably being the backup unless they can get another guy to come in and compete with him.
Well, and I think I think he's a huge addition, because he's got starting playing time, in this conference, and he's sort of seen what we're going to see in terms of the defenses and what have you. And so he's a veteran guy, and so bringing him in here, I think, and he's basically the same class as Juju Wilson. So they'll be, I say they'll be here 3 years together. Of course, that's a ridiculous thing to say in the modern era, but I think he understands, looking at the situation, that you're one play away from being the starting quarterback here right now. So you come in, compete. I think they told him, and I think this is what they should tell him: you get to compete for that starting job, and if you win it, it's yours. Because I think every position should be open. So I think this is a huge addition. I hope they can still find another guy out there, but I don't think that should be a problem. I don't know if it'll be the same level as Wilson, but just having those quarterbacks in there, I think, is important.
How about Ryan Staub lining up a visit with Ohio State?
Yeah, well, all three: Ohio State, Kentucky, and Cincinnati. I mean, that's a crazy trio. For a guy that was never a starter here. It's interesting to me that Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Ohio State are almost equidistant from each other on the highway there. Columbus to the north, Lexington to the south, and so I'm not sure if that's got anything to do with it, but that sounds like he's going to land on his feet, and good for him.
Yeah. Couple running backs coming in from Sacramento State. Both had very similar statistics last season at Sac State. Obviously familiar with the go-go offense. And Brennan Marion has coached at Texas and Pittsburgh, and he's been at the Power 4 level. I don't think he's bringing these guys in. He's got a good understanding of what's going to translate to this level.
Right, and what they're going to be able to do. I like Damian Henderson because his size is fun for me. 6'2", 210. He's like a linebacker playing a running back. But I looked up their stats for this year, and so both Jaquale Smith and Damian Henderson had 500 yards rushing. They also had a third guy with 500 yards rushing, but the leading rusher on the team had 1,200 yards. This offense will run the ball, and they will run the ball a lot. So I think these two guys are great complementary. One's a big pounder and one's a super fast, smaller guy. Jaquale Smith is younger, but I think both of these guys bring something to the program, and I'm very excited to see them both.
And there are a trio of receivers on board. Danny Scudero from San Jose State, who was second-team All-American by 4 publications this past season, put up monster stats, 88 receptions, was a Blitnikoff Award semifinalist.
Yeah.
Cam Perry coming over from Miami of Ohio, big play threat, 22.7 yard average on 43 receptions. And Ernst Campbell comes over from Sacramento State, a jitterbug, 5'9", 145, but he was very impressive in terms of big play ability. So you got some playmakers coming in at the receiver position.
Well, they're all 3'5'9", so everybody's talking about what's going to be the nickname, the Mighty Mites or something. I don't know, but Ernest Campbell. The first thing that jumps out to me is he ran a 10:02 100-meter dash in the actual track time, electronically timed track meet, which is Cliff Branch speed. Speed. It's just it's so fast you can't even imagine what we're talking about. But then Danny Scudero, I mean, this guy is not small school All-American. He's All-American for all levels. Blitnikoff finalist, semifinalist. And so that's not, again, for small schools. That's for all schools. So I don't think people really quite understand what a big darn deal this guy is. I mean, he's the real thing. So all three of these guys can fly. And you've seen comments already from Brendan Marion, that they're going to find ways to get these guys the ball. And he does tailor his offense to the talent he's got. So it's not going to be like one receiver and these guys are all going to sit on the bench.
On the offensive line, a couple guys have committed here very recently. Taj White from Rutgers and Javen Richardson from Missouri. You're our O-line guru. I'll kick it right over to you, William.
Well, I think I like Taj White. He's got 2 years starting for Rutgers, and Rutgers is in the Big Ten, so he doesn't get to play against his own defense. He's played against Ohio State and Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, all those top Big Ten teams, Indiana. So he started all 11 games at right tackle last year. The year before that, he started 9 games, 5 at guard, 4 at right tackle. So he's a guy that can play any place but center for us. He's got 2 years of starting experience in the Big Ten. And I think Big Ten defensive fronts are tougher than our conference. So I think he'll translate quite well. and I think he'll I don't know, we've got Larry Johnson returning at that right tackle spot, and he's pretty darn good. But this makes for competition. One of them likely moves in and takes that other guard spot. I really think one guard spot will be Yaya Atia, but we'll see. I think Taj White is a guy who could step right in and start for us at a pretty high level. 6'5", 310. Javen Richardson's a little bit younger. He's at Missouri. And you have him listed 6'6", 307, but what I'm seeing right now is that he's closer to 330, so he's like 6'6", 330. 2 starts at left tackle, and I put on our board the highlights from that game against South Carolina when he did a pretty darn good job at left tackle. He was their 6th guy on that offensive line for Missouri, and I think he's got a pretty good future as well. So he's a guy that's going to come in and compete. If nothing else, he gives us a very solid backup to Jordan Seaton at left tackle, which is a big damn deal, frankly. And it adds more competition along the line. So I like both of those guys. I like Taj White a little bit better because he's got 2 years of starting experience, but I think both of these are exactly the kinds of big offensive linemen you want to bring in to compete on our line. I think I'd like to see another couple offensive linemen if we can get them. Got my fingers crossed for Jordan Seaton's cousin from Ohio State, but we'll see about that.
Yeah. Colorado entered this transfer window with a high school recruit, Joseph Pecco, committed as a defensive tackle, and literally nothing else at that position. And so far, they've been able to add 3 guys there. Coach Prime was telling Unc Chico that their purpose was to find – their objective was to find 2 Chidozie Wankwos out there. And he said they found that. I would imagine he's talking about Tyler Moore and Dylan Manuel.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. I think they got some guys that we're still waiting on. I think we need about 4 more of these guys. I don't know if we got them out there. I think that I saw that Dylan Manuel's teammate at App State is like 6'3", 330 defensive tackle. I don't know if we're looking at him, but he'd be a good addition. Dylan Manuel, I think, had a lot, did a lot at App State, and I know App State's well coached, so he's 6'1", 300. Tyler Moore, 6'2", 300. And I think we're looking at a couple of other guys that were we'll get to some of the guys that are still looking at us. But the kid from New Mexico State, which we'll talk about later, I think I'm very high on, would like to get him. And then I think the Chidozie guy might, and I can't remember which kid this is, but he's like 5'11", 300, would be built exactly like Block Bully, I think. But these Tyler Moore and Dylan Manuel are a good start for big guys. Santana Hopper was very effective also from App State. He's 6'2", 265, 270, so he's a little bit smaller guy than I like to have inside, but he's about 270 now. Hopefully can play at 280, more like a Shane Cokes type, using his athleticism in there more so than just power. But I'd like to see 3, maybe 4 more guys in that 300-pound range, and I think we got them. I think we're looking at those kind of guys, and I think we'll get it before it's all said and done.
The position with the most additions so far is at edge, where you've got what is it now? 5 guys? 5 guys committed off the edge. We're going to get into our favorite 5 guys. I feel like this is going to be a pretty deep rotation. I don't necessarily know that they're going to go with one or a couple of these guys playing a bulk of the reps. I think you're going to see a pretty deep rotation.
And I think a couple of them might be tried out at linebacker and see if that works out for them as well. But I think one thing that's clear looking at the backgrounds of these guys is Coach Prime realizes what a difference that pass rush made in 2024. We didn't have it this year, and he's going to get it. So they brought in a bunch of dudes who have rushed the passer, rushed the passer instead of rust the passer. But these guys all have a background in the pass rush, and I'm sure they're looking for guys to recapture, get us back near the top of the conference in quarterback sacks and pressures. So Each one of these guys has something a little bit different to give us. The guy that kind of stands out to me is Toby Anene from North Dakota State, 6'4", 260. Has a lot of production, really highly graded by PFF. And then anybody coming out of the North Dakota State program, number one, they're tough, and number two, they are well coached and technically sound, and they're going to play with their hair on fire. So he's the one that kind of jumps out to me right now out of that group. But they all kind of bring something to the table, and it'll be very interesting to see how we use them and who rises to the top. And I don't think we're done at the edge position by any means, because there's a lot of guys we're still looking at. So I don't know. And then, like Lamont Lester had 9.5 sacks as a redshirt freshman last year. Balansama Kamara Phil Steele has him as a third-team All-American. 9 sacks last year, 38 pressures. Aneni had 38 pressures last year. So these are guys who it is very clear we're looking to rush the passer this year.
Michael Elford 6789 says William needs a ceiling fan sponsor.
I said before we started, I got it at the higher level today, and somebody's going to have a comment about it.
All right, linebacker, got 3 of them on board, all guys that have put up a very experienced group here, which they desperately needed. Yeah,
and Gideon Lamprin was the guy out of everybody I wanted the most so far that we've seen, and I watched his film early on when he was first mentioned, and his film from last year at Bowling Green is just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. 119 tackles, first team all conference, 86.4 grade from PFF, which is phenomenal. I think that's NFL level according to their ratings.
Yeah.
First team FCS All American the year before. So he's put together a couple of years, and his story of meeting Coach Prime and the way Coach Prime tells it is maybe the best story I think so far of this early portal season. Did you want me to tell that story?
Yeah, actually, I talked to Gideon, did an interview with him the other day. I'm looking forward to doing a feature. I'll let you get into the story. I got to say one thing, though, is that, how he goes by Gideon ESPN Lamprin?
Yeah.
ESPN is not a nickname. That's his actual middle name.
He was
telling me that his mother got to give his older sibling the middle name, and so his father got to give him his middle name. And of course, what's a dad gonna do, right?
Right.
ESPN.
I bet that's the last time Mom let that dad do anything.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, share the story.
But Lampron was talking about, and Coach Prime tells a story a little bit differently and better, I think. So I'm gonna tell it his way. Coach Prime saying he's getting on a plane to go see Shedeur play in Cleveland, and a kid comes up to him and says, "Hey, Coach, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm in the portal and I could play." And Coach says, "Well, give me your name. I'll check you out. We'll find out." And so Lamprin goes on. Coach Prime goes on. He calls up Darius Darden Box and says, "What do you know about this kid?" And 15 minutes later, Box calls back and says, "This guy can play. This guy's the real deal." So Prime gets up out of his seat in first class, of course, and goes back to where Lamprin is probably sitting at the back of the plane because, he's a college student, doesn't have any money. And he walks up and he says, "Okay, I talked to my people. They say you can play. You ready to do this?" And Lamprin looks at him and goes, "Oh, well, I got to and Coach Prime says, No, that's not what we're doing. You called me out. I didn't come to you. You came to me. So are you ready to do this?" And they set up the visit to Colorado right there on the spot because Coach Prime says, "You had guts to come up and talk to me. You got to make a decision now whether you want to go forward with this." And so Lamprin later on says he took that as a sign from God that this was a place he was supposed to be, and here he is. So I just think that's a great story.
It's destiny, it feels like.
Yeah. I love Coach Prime saying, No. You don't got to check nothing out. You came up to me. You want to do this? Let's do this.
Yeah, he did. He was already in the process of taking visits because went out to Houston and then went out to UCF. So I think it was more about he had already committed to take visits than it was that he wasn't super stoked about Colorado. Because when I talked to him, Colorado jumped to the top of his list the second he got that offer for sure.
Yeah, and you watch him and he plays the game in a Nate Landman style. He has that instinct, and he immediately recognizes plays. And if you watch the video, I put his video on our board. He immediately recognizes plays, and he comes like a guided missile. And he's great at either taking on blocks. There's one play against University of Washington where a big, huge tight end tries to block him, and he stands the guy right up and knocks him on his backside and makes a tackle for no gain. And then there's other places where he kind of steps a little bit to the right and avoids the block and makes tackles in the background. So his game is very similar to Nate Landman to me. And then you look at the other guy, the next guy is Tyler Martinez, and he's the most fundamentally sound linebacker I've seen in a long time. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, he's not as fast. Well, he doesn't look fast because he plays it exactly. He's square to the line, takes his steps up in where he's supposed to be, and he makes the tackle. He's not going to be a sideline guy, but I think he's a very solid inside linebacker. And I think he's a great complement for Lamprin. And then the third guy, Leona Leafau, and I made a joke about the last Leafau we had in this team was as tough as any linebacker, Cepho, but not the same last name exactly, but close. But Leona Leafau maybe has the highest ceiling of any of these three guys because this dude's an athlete. Came from Texas, 6'1", 230, can run. Was originally people were thinking he was going to go to BYU out of the portal, but got him here, and he's from a real pipeline school, Kahuku in Hawaii, and so that'd be a nice pipeline to have. But he's a guy. Those are three really top linebackers coming in for us. Leafau having obviously Power 4 experience at linebacker. So I think I'm very excited about all three of those guys.
And you can't forget, not that you can expect a true freshman to step in right away and have a big impact.
Right.
There are some talented linebackers,
yeah.
Three of them from the prep ranks. One of them is probably not ready physically, but two of them, I wouldn't rule out, possibly having a true freshman make an impact at that position.
Yeah, and I think, going back to Leona Leafau, he started 12 games for Texas, 11 of them at Mike linebacker, one at weak side linebacker. So all three of these guys can play either one of those inner linebacker positions, and that gives us real flexibility. But you talk about those freshmen and, going back to those guys, I think Carson Crawford's ready to go right now. I think Rodney Colton's close to being ready to go right now. Colby Johnson can run like the wind, which always puts you in play.
He'll play on special teams right away.
Yeah. He's going to need to get the weight room a little bit, but all three of those guys are top prospects, and two of them I think are going to come in ready to play. So you don't want to count on a true freshman anywhere really on the field, but at linebacker is a good place where they can often fit in. So I think we're getting some more depth. I think we'll probably get some more linebackers out of the portal, and I'm just excited about who's out there.
And CU's had success with some true freshman linebackers, Jordan Dizon, Addison Gillum. Nate Landman wasn't a starter his freshman year, but he was big-time third down specialist for them in short yardage situations.
Yeah.
So,
and, before, I know we're going to talk about uncommitted guys we're looking at, but just so I don't forget, we're talking about the edge guys, and we're talking about he's not on this list here, but there's a kid from New Zealand. He's in a picture with Coach Prime, kind of doing the haka, and this kid's from New Zealand. I think I can't remember where he played last year.
Yeah, actually, this is who you're looking at, right?
Yes.
About, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. I need this for pronunciation here.
Yeah.
Top to 4.
We'll roll it up so I can see. I'll help you out. Roll it up so I can see it.
Billy top to 4.
You hear that?
Billy top to 4.
Oh, okay. There you go. Ely Toffet to 4. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Just like
Yeah,
just like the
I kind of doubt that, but okay.
but this kid 6'3", 260. I hope we get him, and it kind of, based on his photo with Coach Prime, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we do. But he's another one, all Mountain West honorable mention last year, so he's exciting player to me too. But just wanted to mention him because he's not in the list, the original list of guys we're looking at. So, all right, let me take a breath here. I'm not excited about any of this, not having any fun, right?
Well,
I'll tell you what, I'm not getting anything done I'm supposed to because I'm on the damn board, refreshing every 10 minutes,
I don't think you're alone there. I've been looking at our site traffic. It's been off the charts here recently, more so than even during the season, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna turn this over to you because not being an expert in defensive backs, I'll let you talk more here.
Well, actually, a couple of these guys are on my top 5 list. And we talked about Josh McCormick, the kicker from Grambling State, coming over. He's going to be kind of their kickoff specialist this year. So basically, he's come in and being asked to do exactly what they asked. Hold on a second.
Hey, before I'm looking at a message on the board, and I want to shout out to this because I agree. Spurtree1 says, don't forget Kylan Salter as a linebacker, and I agree with that. The light hasn't quite come on for him, but he looks like an NFL linebacker, and I hope with a new coach he really gets there.
Yeah. But anyways, Josh McCormick's basically going to be their 2026 Buck Buchanan. And in terms of these guys, so I kind of spoiled it already. Cree Thomas is one of the guys that I'm most excited about. And part of that is he's got 4 to play for. He's got the size. He came in and played limited snaps as a true freshman at Notre Dame and is somebody that I think is going to be able to get molded into an all-conference type guy. Colorado had a guy come in from Brophy, Isaiah Oliver, before at that cornerback position, and he's still playing in the NFL. I could see a similar trajectory for Cree Thomas. Justin Englund is another guy that's in my top 5 from James Madison. Graded out really well there. He's on the other side of it. He's going to be a senior this year, but he's a guy I could see and would be surprised if he's not going to be one of their starting cornerbacks this upcoming season. And at safety, Dayton Mitchell from New Mexico State led the Aggies with tackles. What's crazy to me, and this is why I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. I think our guys do a pretty darn good job rating high school recruits because it's a very drawn out process, and you revise those ratings over and over again. The more exposure, the more evaluations you do, the more you watch these kids develop. With the transfer portal ratings, it's like sometimes they just slap a number on them. And I know there's some thought that goes into it, but okay, so Nathan Mitchell leads, I get it's not Power 4 football, but he leads New Mexico State in tackles, and he's got an 86 rating in terms of his transfer rating. Jaheim Otis has got an 87 rating.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Mitchell, his stats are crazy. 3 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, 4 forced fumbles. This is all just last year, but the question mark is he's only 5'10", 175. He's not real big for a safety, so that's the kind of part that worries me. But his production is beyond question.
Yeah.
And shout out to Lexus Driver on the comment board. Nice to see you back this week.
Any other thoughts on these secondary guys, or I'm not even going to ask you if you want to talk about the kicker because I already know the answer.
I think we need a couple more cornerbacks and a couple more safeties in this class, and I think they're probably coming. I don't know how some of these guys we're looking at out there will turn out, but I don't have anything to say about the kicker. Good luck to him. Bring a thick skin, man, because unless you're All-American Mason Crosby, you will not be loved.
All right. Well, that actually segues us into our next segment, which is going to be talking about the guys that are known to be Colorado targets. Many of them have visited the Buffaloes already, and they're still uncommitted. So we're going to break down some of the guys that might still be joining this transfer class in the coming days.
A duo you need to know about. Have you tried the new cheesy dipping burritos at Taco Bell yet? First pick out your option of steak or chicken. Then begin dipping it in a creamy garlic sauce, or you have your option of many sauces: big sour cream, spicy ranch, avocado ranch, creamy chipotle, guacamole, creamy jalapeno. You've got a nacho cheese sauce. All the options. Colorado Taco Bell has been such a great supporter of not just BuffStampede Radio, but also just the athletic program in general. They brought the Buff to Colorado locations, most of them this past fall. That was a hit. They were able to include four prominent Buffs with an NIL budget there, and they donated $1,000 to Golden Buffalo scholarship for every touchdown this past season. So that's a total of $32,000. Taco Bell keep supporting the Buffs, and we appreciate your support of this podcast. Live Moss at Taco Bell.
All right.
That was a little rough.
What happened there?
It doubled up somehow. It was
okay.
Yeah.
Somebody says Adam wants us to double our order from Taco Bell.
There you go. Hey, there you go. That'll make the sponsor happy. Appreciate it.
Well, apologies. It sounded normal on my end. I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, it was doubled up like just sort of two of them going one after the other. But
okay.
Another comment on the board on the chat board. Step 0377 made a really good point that Cameron Silmon Craig was not very big and he was a dog. So I'm not saying it's a problem. The kid can play. I'm just saying.
Even Tawfiq Byard was not. I mean, he was a little stouter, but I mean, he was not the biggest guy. That's one of the things I did an interview with a Texas A&M writer yesterday. I said, the only thing that worries me about him is Tawfiq plays with reckless abandon, and that frame just gets beat up, and he'll keep trying to play through it, but it was rough on his body this past year.
And you gotta respect Tawfiq Byard, and I'm not gonna say I don't know what happened with anybody else, but Tawfiq Byard played through his stuff.
Yep. All right. Well, should we get into the guys that still might join this transfer class? And it's not necessarily relegated just to this list. There's names that pop up. Yeah.
Right. It's happening so fast that you write this down and put it on the board right now. In an hour, there'll be more that should go on it. And plus, there are guys out there that we don't know about. That Coach Prime has talked to and knows about, and the coaching staff knows about, that are not out there for us yet.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily in order. But I'm gonna start because the picture's right there. That's the dude we need, Ezra Christensen. That dude can play.
Yeah, he's one of the most highly pursued guys in the portal right now.
Yeah.
And so it's a battle, but Colorado's really they genuinely are in the thick of this thing. And
I they list him at 6'2", 280, but he looks bigger than that to me. And even if that's what he is, I mean, he's a lot like Shane Cokes, except he looks bigger than Shane Cokes to me. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's not 290. He's a guy we need on that defensive line for sure. And I'm going out of order here because I'm excited about him, and that picture reminded me.
Yeah, C.J. Baxter Jr. took a visit to Colorado. He's a running back from Texas, but right now it looks like Indiana is probably the most likely landing spot. Looked really good for Colorado with DeAndre Moore early on from Texas as well. He was on campus at Colorado. They've got a chance, it sounds like, but Colorado's got some other receiver commits on board, and there's some other schools maybe that could come up with some more NIL money. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think Baxter and Moore would both be great additions, but I also think we're pretty set now at running back and wide receiver. I mean, not set in the sense that we can't take more, but if Zarian McGill comes back as center, I think that answers every question except tight end on offense. And we're pretty set with some playmakers on offense, so I'm excited about that. So if we don't get Moore or Baxter, that's okay with me too. Would like to have them, but not necessarily get everybody.
Yeah. Already talked about the two defensive tackles, Christensen and the San Jose State transfer. On the edge, like you said, you've got 5 commits already, but there's a lot of guys that have visited Colorado and are. I've heard of Andrew Zock from Mercer. It would take a surprising development for him not to be a Buff. MJ Stroud.
You look at Zock, and you look at Zock, and he's a guy with 11.5 sacks last year, and he was FCS All-American and Defensive Player of the Year, not for his conference, but for the whole damn level. I mean, we're bringing in guys, and I think that gets back to what I said early on, that there's a common denominator in what we're looking for here. Coach Prime and his staff are looking for dudes who have done something, and have real on the field experience and production. And also, all these guys seem to have a little bit of an edge and a chip on their shoulder and want to prove something, So all these guys going to come in, not be sitting on their backside on, hey, guess what I did before, but fighting to do more. And I think they've really looked for a different attitude towards players this year, and it shows to me.
Yeah. MJ Stroud, he's kind of down to West Virginia, Colorado, Michigan State. I don't know how many more edge guys can you take? If Zock commits, that's 6. You're not probably going to turn away somebody like I don't know. A lot of these guys you'd still want to take, but you can only take so many of them.
Right. You got to make some choices, but then the question to me is, can some of them play stand-up linebacker for you? And if they're big enough, some of those guys at the 265 range might be able to play a 5 or a 3 technique a little bit for you. So the coaches have to make some hard choices about some of these guys.
Anthony Jones is an intriguing guy. He's moved. He is the poster child of portal era football.
Yeah.
He played 1 year at Oregon, 1 year at Indiana, 1 year at Michigan State, and last year at UCLA. And he's visited the Buffs on Wednesday. He's set to visit Nebraska. So you almost want to get him just so he doesn't go to Nebraska, right?
Yeah. Well, and he looked good too. I mean, I think he's a guy that got to settle down and get into one system and sit, learn it and play. I don't know, but it's a question mark to me that he's bounced around a lot.
Yeah.
Andre Bradford said he coached that kid. That's great.
Yeah. All right. A new name has emerged at linebacker, Randon Fontenette from Vanderbilt. And
I looked at, and I was studying him this morning, and they kind of use him as a hybrid safety outside linebacker guy, 6'2", 220, been a 2-year starter for Vandy. He's got both pass breakups and sacks, a little bit of everything. So he's a guy that can really run. And, 2 years as a starter in the SEC, he would be really something to add to this defense. And it sounds like we're his favorite.
Yep. And Smith Snowden, a cornerback transfer from Utah, very decorated player there, experienced player. He's been kind of going all over the place. Colorado, Michigan, BYU, Georgia's on his list, Michigan, Oregon. So he's kind of hitting up a lot of spots. I would imagine, though, within the next 5 days or so, he'll probably be done, and we'll have a decision out of him.
And his uncle Chuck Snowden was a nice running back for us back in the McCarty era, back in my both of them came out of Fairview High School.
Yeah. Boo Carter. What are our thoughts here, William? This is a tricky one. He visited Vanderbilt. He's expected to visit Colorado, and then he might also take trips to see Auburn, Louisville, and Mississippi State. What we know about him is that Colorado was a finalist for him coming out of high school. He ended up at Tennessee. Not rave reviews over his character during his time there at Knoxville, but there's no questioning his talent. Do you take a chance on him after a season in which your locker room wasn't great? Or
I think you got.
It seems like they put a premium on character with so many of these guys. Maybe you feel like you've created the environment where you could take a risk on a guy like this.
Yeah, you could take a guy here and there as long as they work. But I think in this situation you have to trust Coach Prime to sit down and talk with the young man and find out what he thinks. I don't know. One of the things I love about Coach Prime is that he's in this for the kids, and he's in this to, as he often says, help guys grow up and become good men. And if Coach Prime thinks he could take Boo Carter and get him to settle down and help him become a better person, then I'm all for it. as long as he doesn't create a problem in the locker room, his talent is beyond question. Maybe Coach Prime is what he needs in his life. I don't know enough about the kid. I haven't met him. I'm not going to talk anything bad about him. I don't.
Yeah.
If he,
I would imagine it's going to be a short leash though, because remember Juwan
Yes.
Mitchell.
Right.
Mitchell got another chance. Colorado
Right.
gave it to him, and he screwed up. And
Yeah.
that was it. That was it for him.
Yeah. But I think this is the kind of thing where I'm sure Coach Prime has sat with this kid and talked with him, and at the end of the day, you either trust Coach Prime or you don't, and I do in this situation.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's going to be more news coming soon, so hopefully that's not too outdated by the time folks listen to this, if you're not listening or watching live. Guys going out of the program, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Amari Miller is going to Arizona State. Brandon Davis-Wayne to Texas A&M. Jaheim Otis to Ole Miss. London Merritt committed to Clemson yesterday. Alexander McPherson is going to Penn State.
He's the one I think we're going to miss the most. I think McPherson has the most upside of any of those guys.
And Tawfiq Byard to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
One thing that Coach Prime said when he was talking with Unc and Chico is that there have been some guys that hit the portal and kind of regretting that decision because the money isn't what they thought it was going to be. And he said they can't come back here, but we're going to do everything we can to try to help them get somewhere.
And who was on? Yeah, so was somebody we were talking about on the board that I can't remember who it was, but his got an offer from South Georgia. I mean, that's a big fall.
Yep.
From here.
Cam Michael. Yep.
Yes, Cameron Michael.
From the number 2 ranked athlete in the entire country coming out of high school to that. Yeah.
Just get Georgia Southern, I guess. But you got to have a plan. I mean, and you start to see these stories about these unethical quote unquote agents telling these guys, well, you can make this much and this much, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they're just feeding these guys bullshit, and I don't know. Hopefully parents are looking out, but kids at that age think they know everything, and some of them are getting taken advantage of,
Yeah. All right. Let's take a gander at the eligibility chart here. We talked about probably need, I shouldn't say probably, you need another arm if it's only for practice. But I mean, we saw in the semifinals with Miami, weren't they down to their third string quarterback by the end of that game?
Yeah, it's not unusual at all, not unusual at all. So we need another guy in there, and you really need at least 4 guys to run enough reps, 2 guys running with the 1s and 2s, and then 2 guys running with the scout team,
Probably be nice to have another running back for depth purposes, especially given this offense, right?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot, like he hit Marion's offense. He seems to like to have 1 small, fast guy and 1 big guy. And we got a couple of big guys in Price and Welch, or Price and Henderson. Well, Welch too, I would say. Maybe 1 more guy would be nice to add if he's a quality addition. As much, he's talking about running 80 plays a game. A lot of dudes are going to play. Like I said, four guys had over 500 yards rushing for them last year. So a lot of guys are going to get a lot of carries in this offense. So another 1 or 2 would not hurt at all.
Like you said, anything you'd add at receiver would just be gravy at this point, but got to add at tight end. O-line, same thing, right? Just anything you can add there is gravy.
Assuming Atkins and Savell Smalls are both playing, I don't really know what's happening with Lazier and D'Souza in their first season, but I think we need at least 2, probably 2 tight ends from the transfer portal, and they got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Offensive line, I think a lot depends to me on Zarian McGill. If he's back, he's one of the best centers in the conference. But I'd like to have a couple more guys, especially, with a little bit of eligibility left. Chauncey Gooden and Yaya Atia, I think, will fight for guard. And if McGill's not back, those 2 will probably fight for the center spot. I think Payne and Gula incoming are both guys that could be ready to play early. But I think we need at least 2 more guys that can play interior. I think we're pretty well set at tackles, but we need some interior guys. I'd like to see at least 2 more added to that group just to have enough depth, quite frankly.
Defensive line still got to add there. You've had a nice start to the portal.
I think defensive tackle. I think defensive tackle needs at least 3 more guys, and I'm talking 280 and above, 300-pound guys. You saw how they went down last year, which was unprecedented as far as I've seen. But I think we got to have 8 guys in that room at the defensive tackle spot. We got about 25 edge guys already, so I think we're probably good. Linebacker starting to get there. I'd like a couple more, man, because I want real competition this year. I hope Salter at the line. You look at Colin Salter with the pads off, and the dude looks like a 3-year NFL veteran. I mean, he looks great. Hopefully, he can get the keys down and get a little more instinctual and make those plays. But it looks a lot better in that room now than it did before. But I wouldn't mind taking another couple.
Like you said, Randon Fontenette probably going to be a buff as well, so that'd be an eight scholarship guy at that position.
Yeah, with him added, that room looks pretty darn good to me.
Yeah. At cornerback, Justin Anglin and Cree Thomas coming in, big deal. But I'd still like to see at least one more guy come in there. And if it's Smith Snowden, man, you're feeling good about that group.
And you're feeling really good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple more guys in there. And hopefully it'd be nice to get a guy like Brandon Hood that comes out of nowhere, but hopefully we get a couple more guys in there to provide more competition for those spots at cornerback, and also you got to get your nickel back out of that group most likely, and then safety I think still needs a couple of guys.
Yeah, that was a group that took a big hit with the portal, with Tawfiq Byard and John Slaughter hitting the portal. And 2 of the 5 scholarship guys at that position are going to be true freshmen. One of them, Alexander Ward, reclassified. So, you definitely need help there. For sure.
And I think I probably need another 3 guys at safety. Quite frankly, I don't know. I like Ben Finiseth, but if he starts and Alejandro Mata is back, a lot of people are going to have coronaries with Valdez on our board.
We'll just move along. Right now, and this number is as fluid as water. Right now, as we record this, 66 scholarship commitments, 33 on offense, 30 on defense, and 3 on special teams. It's a pretty veteran group. You've got 25 seniors, 13 juniors, 10 sophomores, 5 redshirt freshmen, 13 true freshmen, and then they've got a verbal commitment from Dolph McDonald on board for the class of 2027. So
some good questions in the board here that they're asking, did JoJo Williams just enter the transfer portal? And then somebody asked, isn't McGill going to the league? My understanding is Zarian McGill's trying to get an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, I'm trying to get confirmation on that. Somebody was asking me about that earlier today. So,
and then Step 0377 says, I see Yaya starting at one of the guard spots. I agree with you, but I'd like to have him compete for it, not have it handed to him.
You don't have your audio output on, do you? Because I'm going to play our other ads, and I don't want to have people's ears bleeding out there.
Okay.
Is your setup the same way as it's always been?
As it always been. It's always the same.
Okay.
I don't
All right. Well,
you're lucky I could turn the damn thing on.
Let's see how this goes.
Okay.
Is your business growing, but not quite ready for a full-time CFO? Macaulay Capital offers fractional CFO services for companies doing more than $3 million in annual revenue. You get expert financial leadership without the full cost. Learn more about how you can improve your business's profitability and cash management at MacAullayCapital.com. If you know Boulder, you know the Hungry. We've been serving this town since 1991. Long before the lines on Pearl Street. Just north of campus, we're your local British pub with proper fish and chips, quality burgers, scratch kitchen, real English cask ale, and no tourist. We support football, women's soccer, and the loyal fans who keep it local. The Hungry Toad, Boulder-born, Buffs proud.
Oh no, still happening.
Same. Yeah.
Oh man.
With all 3 of them, brother. All 3 of them. Something wrong with your ad thing is not working.
Okay. Well, my apologies.
Yeah. Do you know anything about JoJo Williams entering the portal?
I have not heard that.
Okay.
So, did you get a chance to watch any of Fernando Lobo's intro press conference? If not,
yeah, a little bit.
No big deal. A little bit. You know,
a little bit.
It's one of those things when you've been around this long enough, intro press conferences kind of all start to sound the same, right?
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
But I mean, his youthful energy definitely stood out for sure.
Yeah.
He's talking about, hey, Coach Prime, I'm going to be out there running behind you with Ralphie. And it does feel like he's going to give this athletic department that shot of energy that you would expect from a younger AD taking over.
And I think, and before I forget, don't forget our top 5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I think in the modern era of sports, you know, I don't know, I'm not 100% clear on what an athletic director has to do beyond the obvious, but I think fundraising has to be job one now, you know, bringing in for NIL and, you know, on top of you always had to have money for capital improvements and building whatever, keeping up in the arms race of facilities. But now you got to do the NIL for all these sports as well. So, you know, getting out there and bringing money in so that we can actually compete on even footing, I think matters. But I think also, you know, somebody, one of these players we were mentioning was seeing an article about the NIL is not a factor. It might have been Boo Carter, I don't know. And it's back down to old-fashioned recruiting, you know, and who can convince a kid to come, you know. And I think there's still more of that people think, but you want to be able to make those offers when you need to.
Yeah. Coach Prime told Unc and Chico that 2 more coaches are still set to come on board. He even hinted that Rashad Hall actually might be, or I'm sorry, Rashad Davis, who has been on staff with them the last few years as kind of the secondary receivers coach and actually done most of the recruiting for that receivers position, might get promoted into that full-time role. So we'll see what happens there. We do know Josh.
I would have to say, you know, wide receiver coach has got to be okayed by Brennan Marion, you know, and given his views on how you don't play if you don't block, that's got to be an important part of whatever that position coach's plans are.
We do know that Josh Niblett is going to join Colorado staff as the new tight ends coach. Very decorated high school coach in the South.
People have no idea how big of a deal this is. This guy can coach. He's got the right, you know, you talk about culture and however you want to define that word. This guy is exactly what you want on a staff. He knows offensive football inside and out. You know, people say, high school coach, big damn deal. Well, he's been the best high school coach in Florida for quite a while now, you know, and that's saying something. He's got his thumb right on the pulse of recruiting down in the South. And you know, traditionally tight ends coach is where you put a guy who's a fantastic recruiter because, you know, tight end's not a tough position to coach. You only have 4 or 5 guys. And so I think he'll bring improvement to that position. And I think he'll also improve the recruiting for that position. But I think he is a guy that's going to just be perfect with Brennan Marion because they're both, you know, kind of that run through the wall kind of a guy, you know?
Yeah. His energy seems to be pretty infectious. It's more stable energy, I think, than
right.
Tim Brewster.
Not crazy like not 1950s energy.
Rashad Rich takes over as the new director of recruiting. He comes over after a decently long stretch, 3.5 years at Penn State. So he knows what big time recruiting looks like.
Right.
And so I'll tell you, Darius Darden-Box has gotten off to a nice start as their director of player personnel just by being able to orchestrate all of what's happened here in the last week.
Yeah, I think it's impressive, you know, that a kid walks up to Coach Prime in the airport and 15 minutes later he's got the scoop on the guy because they didn't go watch all that film in 15 minutes. They knew they had to answer. You know, and some people might say, well, why didn't Coach Prime know about him in the first place? Well, the head coach can't have watched the film of a couple of hundred dudes. It's just not, you know, he's got to take he's going to watch film before they make that final offer, but he's not going to have watched every single guy out there. That's what the recruiting department is for.
Yeah. But Coach Prime, he said that he's been very hands-on with this process.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that when people were just kind of doubting whether he could get this program back on track, it kept going back to his personality and the competitiveness and the drive. And it's like, now he's not dealing with cancer. It's going to look different this offseason. I still would like to see him on the PJ and get out there for some home visits, but as long as the results are coming in with commits, that's what counts.
Yeah, and I think I think a lot of people in the old German expression "Sturm und Drang," and it's sort of like the tempest in a teapot or whatever, and all the wailing and pulling hair out of the last few weeks about this team and about Coach Prime, and it just keeps getting lost to me for people that the dude was fighting cancer and getting the inside of his body rebuilt, and you got some of these jackwagons out there saying, well, he didn't work as hard. He was in Dallas too much. Well, he's trying to frickin' survive, man, And I think he's going to be a different damn dude this year. I think he's got his energy back. I think he's got that fire back. I think he's always been a super competitive guy. I don't think it sits well with him what happened this year. And you see it in the staff changes, and you see the approach to recruiting this portal that he's looking for dudes that can come in, and play with their hair on fire and really get after it. So I think it's going to be a whole different thing.
Well, let's close out with our top five, our favorite 5 transfer commitments so far, and we'll see. We'll revisit this once the spring semester is closed and we know who's going to be part of this 2026 team. I think I know who your number 1 is, and I think I might have the same one.
Yeah, my number 1, and I'm trying to get to the page where the information. My number 1 is, of course, no surprise, Gideon Lampron, the linebacker. And
same for me. Yep.
And I say not just because of that story with Coach Prime, but his film. God damn, man! I watched that film like 4 times in a row. I was like, damn, that's a linebacker right there. That dude's a grown ass man, and he knows how to play the sport. I think it's just super impressive. I think he may be one of the best linebackers we've seen coming in here in a long darn time. So I'm just super excited about him. He really wants to be here. He clearly, has the right attitude, and I think he's got a leader's attitude. I think that's another thing about a lot of these guys. They've all been playing a lot. There's a lot of older guys, and I don't think they're coming in here to screw around. I think they're going to come in here and hold each other accountable. And I think Gideon Lampron is going to be one of the team leaders. I think he's going to be a lot like Shane Coates in that regard. He's been around, had to earn it. And I'm just really super excited about him.
He's my number 1 as well. And as I mentioned, I did an interview with him. Going to have a feature once things slow down and I'm desperate for content. I can reach back into that. The bag there and do that story.
Well, I think we can do a whole year's worth of film study room on all these guys.
Yeah. But you forget sometimes about the human element of it because he's back at Bowling Green. He had to find somebody. He had to sublet his apartment. He's figuring out where to move all his stuff. The academic side. He's trying to get out to Colorado as quick as he can, but sometimes you forget there's loose ends these guys got to tie up before they start that next chapter of their college career.
Right.
Now, number 2 for me was cornerback Cree Thomas. And part of that was the 4 years of eligibility. Now, in the portal era, that doesn't guarantee anything. He could be a 1-for-1 in Boulder. You never know. But I look at him as a guy that has the frame, the ability to become what we wanted DJ McKinney to become. Is it going to be this year? Maybe not, but I think over time, this is going to be an all-conference cornerback, maybe during his upperclassman years.
Well, and especially at 6'3", 190. I mean, he's got length and reach like nobody's business. And you look at the teams that were in on him in the transfer portal and coming out of Notre Dame, and he should be a guy that steps right in and does a really great job. So I think that's a fair choice, absolutely.
Who's your number 2?
I didn't have him in my top 5, but then that, I'm not a big, to me, I don't know defensive backs. So, my number 2 is Danny Scudero at wide receiver. because
Sure.
you just can't get past the production last year and the fact that the kid almost won the Dan Biletnikoff Award and was an All-American. I mean, I think Danny Scudero is a guy I think people are going to see. I think he's going to be a household name nationwide at the end of next season, because this offense, I think, is going to be pretty special. And I think he's going to be one of the leading recipients of catches and yards or whatever. So I think he's a guy that, to me, people don't understand what we're getting out of.
Yeah. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Taj White, the big offensive tackle from Rutgers. And primarily because he's been a 2-year starter in the Big Ten. And I think that translates well to really being able to come in here and fight for a starting spot and, maybe push Larry Johnson. I don't know. But I really like his background and what he brings to the table as a grown-ass man, 5th-year guy on the offensive line. So I'm pretty excited about him.
My number 3 is Santana Hopper from Tulane. Previously played and had a lot of success at App State. Was an all-conference guy in 2 different conferences. Pretty highly regarded guy coming out of high school, but went to App State. And I think with his size, William, he's a guy that it can be pretty versatile, depending if it's a running situation or a passing down. Can be a guy that can play a lot of different techniques up front.
Yeah, and at 6'2", 270, he can do some inside work for you. He's not going to be that block bully at the nose kind of guy. But, I was looking at his stats. He's got 1,431 defensive plays at the college level. He's got 86 quarterback pressures, man.
Yeah.
Second-team freshman All-American in 23. First-team All-Conference in 24. He actually played at Shelby High School in North Carolina, which was in the same conference that I coached in out there, and they're always really good. So he's a fun guy, and I think he's going to be a real – I think, again, like Shane Coates, he's going to be a guy that's unsung. Maybe you don't get all the stats, but tying up blockers and such. So I think he'll be real something. Like you said, he's a versatile kind of guy and can do different things.
Yeah. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is in the same group, but a different direction, close to the same size, Toby Anene from North Dakota State. And I kind of raved about him a little bit, 6'4", 260. If you know anything about North Dakota State, man, they play fundamentally sound football. They're tough as nails. They're hard-nosed. They work hard. This guy's another guy that's going to be a team leader because he's coming from a place where they know, how to the team is more important than the individual. Plus, he had eight tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 6 passes knocked down, fumble recovery, and forced fumble last year at North Dakota State. North Dakota State is a perennial. They often win that national championship at the FCS level, and they came in and played us tough. So we saw him play in Boulder, but. I'm very excited about Toby Anene to come in here and really do something along that defensive line. Well, I think he's very similar to Hopper, quite frankly, in a lot of ways, except Hopper is going to be more athletic and can run, whereas Toby Anene is just like a freaking hammer, man. He's just that tough guy up front. So the two of them together, I think, are going to do some things.
My number 4 is cornerback Justin Englund from coming over from James Madison. Played on a successful team there, and he's only got 1 year to play one. But cornerback, linebacker, the 2 positions that when you're trying to play the scheme that Robert Livingston is, and Coach Prime as well, you need those positions to play well if you're going to go man coverage as much as they do. And so bringing him in, I think, was a big deal. Who's your number 5?
Yeah, I like Englund as well. As 6 foot, he's another guy that's got some height and length to him. But my number 5 was Leona Lefau, the linebacker from Texas, and I think that he is a superb player. Like I talked about, started for a couple of years, 12-game starter last year at Texas, 11 at Mike, and 1 at Weekside, and just a lot of production on the field. Another guy coming from a top program, that is used to playing a lot. And I think he's going to add to that linebacker room. And he'll be the most athletic, I think, of the 3 we've got so far at linebacker. So I think he really has it at room.
He was my number 5 as well, but I was really torn, William, between he and Tyler Martinez.
Yeah, I had State. Tyler Martinez as honorable mention.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I look at my list, those 6 names that I listed off, all but they're 3 linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, and a defensive tackle. Because it was kind of focused. Part of my list is focused on just filling some desperate needs that Colorado had, and people are kind of down on Robert Livingston right now. It's like, well, if they can get solid cornerback play and linebacker play, he's going to look like a good defensive coordinator again.
Right. Well, right. 2024, I think people think, oh, Tyler Hansen or Tyler Hansen. My God. Now I can't. For God's sakes, what's Tyler's last name?
What position are you talking about?
Travis Hunter. Excuse me. I don't know. My brain is like oatmeal that I had for breakfast. Everybody says, well, Travis Hunter just saved you. But you know what? You had Block Bully, who took up 2 blockers every single time. You had BJ Green, who was one of the top sack guys in the conference. You had the 2 inside linebackers who were stellar. There was a lot of pieces on that defense, and you look, it's easy for you to look better as a coach when you got better players, so you get those pass rushers up here, you get somebody stout in the middle of that defensive line, you get some linebackers that can actually make tackles, and you're going to look better,
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. This was a fun show. I got to ask you, are you the biggest Indiana fan in the world today?
Oh my God. I can't even, I got to be very careful because all the obscenities will start spewing right now, but I hope they hang 100 on those Technicolor clowns. I hope they we're going to see real coaching versus playing for clicks coaching. Piece of shit. And I hope some plays go out of bounds and take out both of little Danielle's knees. I hope they give up the sport after tonight. I hope Indiana just rips their guts out and goes up in the stands after their mamas.
Will you be tuning in?
I might.
What else haven't we talked about? We've touched on a lot today, but yeah, we got to circle back and we got to do a deeper dive on so many of these guys.
Yeah. And it's going to be fun. It'll be fun in spring to see all these guys on the field. We'll start seeing them in the weight room soon. But and then the other thing is a lot of our incoming freshmen are starting to get on campus now and find their way around, and so that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and they're going to get into strength and conditioning work in I think about a week and a half. So we'll have some stuff to talk about there as well.
And one big win out of the transfer portal we didn't talk about was keeping Jordan Seaton here. And I consider that a win in the transfer portal because the dude had options, And
if he goes, Larry Johnson III maybe as well, because they're pretty close. And
Gooden is still here at guard, and I think he's got a brilliant future. So we got some. Thank you. He is, and that's a nice way of putting it. If you don't got to be watching, you got to be watching the comments to know what the hell I'm talking about. But
it's not good for our podcast audience, William.
No, but hey, they're here, they're participating. I like to make sure that people know that I'm watching what they're saying. Lady C, you got that right. He's the franchise at tackle, and Larry Johnson with them, and like I said, there's a bright future on that offensive line. And I hope Seaton gets his big cousin from Ohio State. That'd be a big get.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, there's also what's his face? I think man, there's so many guys I can't keep them all straight. But the guy from App State, isn't that Hopper? He's got his big teammate. That's a big 320-pound tackle. Like to see him here, and at this point, guys don't have to necessarily be automatic starters. We need competition and depth too, and that's where we got to start filling in. I want to keep bringing in stars, but we got to bring in guys that give us some depth and competition too.
Yeah, Good show, William. We've gone about an hour and 10 minutes, and I got to get back and find out if there's anything new to report on. Some rumors on our chat, and we got to tap in here.
Get the
ads fixed for next week. Yeah. I don't know what happened there, but I'm not going to make your ears hurt anymore by playing another ad. So we'll say goodbye. William, let's try to do another show maybe early next week, because the way this is moving, feels like we'll probably have something to talk about before too long.
Well, they've been talking about this as a big visit weekend, so there ought to be some fireworks coming out of this weekend. We'll see who shows up and what happens with it.
We will see. All right, William, appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.